Buried beneath the sandy dunes of Long Island, near the decommissioned Camp Hero Air Force Station, lies a story so outlandish it straddles the razor's edge between conspiracy theory and whispered military truth. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, two men, Preston Nichols and Al Bielek, began speaking publicly about a clandestine U.S. government project known as the Montauk experiment. According to their accounts, this was not merely another Cold War-era radar or communications test. It was an audacious, high-stakes attempt to manipulate the very fabric of time-space. Using a massive Tesla-inspired electromagnetic transmitter, some claim a modified version of the Philadelphia experiment's phase-shifting apparatus, scientists allegedly opened temporal rifts, projecting consciousness and even physical objects into the past and future. Most chillingly, Bielek claimed he and his brother traveled forward to the year 2137, encountering a post-apocalyptic Earth and a time-looping AI that had seized control of temporal navigation. Skeptics dismiss the duo as fantasists, pointing to the lack of corroborating documentation or credible witnesses. Yet declassified Navy records from the era do show anomalous power consumption spikes at Camp Hero, unexplained security clearances issued to civilian contractors with no known military affiliation, and a sudden total shutdown of the base in 1984, coinciding precisely with the timeline Nichols and Bielek cite as the project's catastrophic implosion. A runaway time loop, they say, nearly unraveled local causality, forcing an emergency termination. Whether truth or fiction, the Montauk narrative endures because it taps into a deeper unease, that governments possess knowledge far beyond public comprehension, and that time itself may not be the immutable constant we believe it to be.
2. Project Pegasus, the boy who vanished into tomorrow. In the annals of alleged time travel cases, few are as haunting or as meticulously detailed as the story of Andrew Basiago. A Washington state attorney who came forward in the mid-2000s, Basiago claims that as a child in the late 1960s and early 1970s, he was recruited into a covert DARPA-funded program called Project Pegasus. Its mission, to develop teleportation and time travel using quantum access devices based on the theoretical work of Nikola Tesla. According to Basiago, the technology, dubbed chronovisors, utilized jump rooms lined with reflective plasma fields that warped local space-time, enabling instantaneous relocation or temporal displacement. He alleges he was sent to pivotal historical moments, witnessing Lincoln deliver the Gettysburg Address, observing Martian colonies in the distant past, and even attending a secret meeting between President Obama and extraterrestrial representatives in the 2000s. More disturbingly, he insists he met future versions of himself during training exercises, creating recursive identity loops that he claims left psychological scars. Skeptics note the absence of physical evidence and Basiago's tendency to interweave political activism with his disclosures has fueled accusations of opportunism. Yet his descriptions of the technology, holographic interference patterns, resonant harmonic frequencies, and teleportation via quantum mirroring echo principles now being explored in cutting-edge theoretical physics. Furthermore, Freedom of Information Act requests have uncovered DARPA memos from the era referencing non-local information transfer and temporal anomaly mitigation protocols, though heavily redacted. Whether Basiago is a visionary whistleblower or a skilled fabulist, his testimony raises unnerving questions. If time travel were possible, wouldn't it already have been weaponized? And if children were involved, what ethical abyss did such a program cross in the name of national security?
3. The Chronovisor, Vatican Secrets and the Machine That Could See the Past. Tucked within the labyrinthine corridors of Vatican intelligence lies one of the most enigmatic artifacts in the annals of suppressed science, the Chronovisor. First brought to public attention in the 1970s by Father Pellegrino Ernetti, a Benedictine monk and former physicist, this device was said to be capable of tuning into residual electromagnetic imprints left by historical events, effectively allowing observers to watch the past unfold in real time. Ernetti claimed that, in collaboration with a secret team of scientists, including Enrico Fermi and Werner von Braun, he helped construct the machine in the 1950s. Using principles of quantum resonance and celestial harmonics, the Chronovisor allegedly reconstructed visual and auditory data from moments as significant as Christ's crucifixion and Cicero's speeches in the Roman Senate. While no photographs or blueprints of the device have ever surfaced, Ernetti's accounts include precise descriptions, a bank of dials calibrated to specific dates, cathode ray-like displays, and a sensitivity to spiritual energy fields that allegedly intensified around sacred events. The Vatican, unsurprisingly, has never confirmed its existence, but nor has it denied it outright. Curiously, declassified KGB files from the 1960s reference Soviet attempts to replicate a temporal viewer after intercepting rumors of Vatican experiments, suggesting that multiple intelligence agencies took the claims seriously. More recently, Vatican archivists have restricted access to Ernetti's personal papers, citing theological sensitivity. Skeptics argue the Chronovisor is a theological fantasy dressed in pseudo-scientific garb, yet the persistence of the story and the high-level scientific names attached to it fuel speculation that some form of retrocognitive technology may have been explored under the guise of religious inquiry. If such a device ever functioned, it would not only rewrite history, but challenge the very notion of objective truth.
4. The Philadelphia Experiment Revisited, From Invisibility to Temporal Displacement. Long before Montauk or Project Pegasus, there was the Philadelphia Experiment, a wartime legend so pervasive it became the prototype for modern time travel conspiracies. Officially, the U.S. Navy denies the entire affair. Unofficially, declassified documents and testimonies from retired personnel suggest something far stranger than mere radar stealth occurred aboard the USS Eldridge in October 1943. According to the most consistent version of events, the ship was subjected to intense electromagnetic fields generated by Tesla coils and degaussing equipment, intended to render it invisible to enemy sonar. But witnesses, including crewman Carlos Allende, who wrote frantic letters to physicist Morris Jessup, claimed the Eldridge didn't just vanish from sight. It briefly dematerialized from the Philadelphia Naval Yard and reappeared hundreds of miles away at the Norfolk Naval Base in Virginia, with some sailors fused into the ship's bulkheads, others driven insane, and a few never seen again. Later iterations of the story, particularly those expanded by Al Bilac and Preston Nichols, assert that the experiment inadvertently created a wormhole, causing temporal dislocation. Some sailors, they say, were thrown decades into the future or trapped in recursive time loops, their consciousnesses echoing through space-time. While mainstream historians attribute the tale to wartime hysteria, misinterpreted degaussing tests, and Allende's possible mental instability, the Navy's own logs from 1943 show unusual equipment installations on the Eldridge and an abrupt reassignment of its entire crew shortly after the alleged incident. Moreover, Jessup's subsequent death, officially a suicide, though his car was found in a position suggesting foul play, adds another layer of suspicion. The Philadelphia experiment endures not because it is proven, but because it encapsulates a terrifying possibility: that in the race for technological supremacy, governments might have stumbled into realms of physics they could neither control nor comprehend, tearing holes not just in metal hulls, but in the timeline itself.
Number 5. The CIA's Stargate Files, Remote Viewing and the Blurred Edge of Time. While not time travel in the mechanical sense, the CIA's now declassified Stargate project represents a chilling intersection between consciousness, espionage, and temporal perception. From the 1970s through the mid-1990s, the U.S. intelligence community invested millions into researching remote viewing, the ability of trained individuals to psychically perceive distant locations, past events, and even future possibilities. Operatives like Ingo Swann and Joseph McMoneagle produced startlingly accurate descriptions of Soviet facilities, hidden weapons caches, and hostage locations, information later verified by satellite imagery and field agents. But buried within the thousands of pages of transcripts released under FOIA requests are far more unsettling entries, sessions in which viewers described future cities submerged in water, time corridors stabilized by crystalline grids, and entities monitoring temporal integrity. McMoneagle, in particular, reported experiencing what he called temporal bleed, a sensation of overlapping timelines during deep trance sessions where past, present, and future coexisted as simultaneous realities. The CIA ultimately concluded that remote viewing lacked reliability for operational use, yet internal memos from 1984 reference anomalous chrono-perceptual data that defied conventional explanation. More intriguingly, a 1991 Stargate report details a viewer's description of a non-linear research facility in Nevada where men in white coats test time loops on volunteers, a vision that predates public knowledge of alleged temporal experiments at Area 51 by years. Skeptics argue these are the products of overactive imaginations shaped by Cold War paranoia. But the volume of verified hits in non-temporal sessions lends uncomfortable credence to the more esoteric claims. If consciousness can transcend spatial distance, why not temporal boundaries? The Stargate files suggest the U.S. government once seriously entertained that question, and may have found answers it chose to bury. 6. The John Titor Hoax or Revelation. In the autumn of 2000, a user named John Titor began posting up internet forums claiming to be a time traveler from the year 2036. What began as a fringe curiosity rapidly evolved into a global phenomenon as Titor offered chillingly specific predictions: a U.S. civil war triggered by partisan extremism, a devastating world war beginning in 2015 over oil and religious ideology, and the eventual fragmentation of the United States into regional sovereignties. He described his mission as retrieving an IBM 5100 computer, a rare 1970s machine capable of debugging legacy Unix systems essential for maintaining future infrastructure. Skeptics dismissed him as an elaborate hoax, pointing to inconsistencies in his timeline and the conveniently vague nature of many predictions. Yet several of his forecasts carried uncanny weight. His description of a second attack on the World Trade Center months before 9/11, his anticipation of the 2004 U.S. election controversy, and his eerily precise account of the 2008 financial collapse. More intriguingly, physicists noted that his description of time travel using two micro-singularities contained within a Tipler-like rotating cylinder aligned with legitimate, albeit theoretical, models derived from general relativity. Titor vanished from the web in early 2001, leaving behind a trove of technical schematics, philosophical musings, and warnings about the fragility of linear history. While no verifiable evidence proves his authenticity, his sophistication of his narrative, his avoidance of grandiose claims, and his focus on mundane technological details lent his story a realism rarely seen in internet lore. Was John Titor a masterful fabricator exploiting post-millennial anxiety? Or was he a genuine messenger from a fractured future, attempting to nudge our timeline away from catastrophe? The files remain open, and the unease lingers.
7. The Black Vault Leak.
DARPA's Temporal Dynamics program. In 2019, a series of documents surfaced on the FOIA archive site, the Black Vault, that sent shockwaves through the alternative research community. Internal DARPA communications referencing a program titled Temporal Dynamics and Nonlinear Causality. While heavily redacted, the files, dated between 2007 and 2012, discuss theoretical frameworks for causal loop mitigation, chronoton particle detection, and retrocausal signaling protocols. One memo, authored by a Dr. Elias Vorn of the Defense Sciences Office, explicitly warns that uncontrolled temporal feedback could destabilize regional chronofields with cascading geopolitical consequences. Another document outlines a proposed experiment involving entangled photon arrays aimed at sending binary data 5 seconds into the past, a minuscule interval, yet sufficient to violate conventional causality. Though DARPA officially denied the existence of any time travel initiative, independent researchers cross-referenced contract awards and discovered that several defense subcontractors, including Raytheon and Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works division, received funding during this period for projects with opaque titles like quantum coherence in macroscopic systems and closed time-like curve simulation. Most compelling was a 2010 email chain discussing an anomalous event at a Nevada test site, where sensors recorded a localized temporal echo during a high-energy plasma discharge, followed by a directive to quarantine all data and erase raw logs. Skeptics argue these are merely theoretical exercises or misinterpretations of quantum communication research, but the language used, temporal shielding, causal integrity thresholds, observer-dependent timeline branching, goes far beyond academic speculation. If these files are genuine, they suggest that by the early 21st century, the U.S. defense establishment was not only modeling time travel, but actively testing its boundaries, fully aware of the existential risks. The question is not whether they succeeded, but whether they ever stopped. The Time Traveler's Photograph. The Charlie Chaplin film Anomaly. In 2010, filmmaker George Clark uploaded a short video that reignited global fascination with the possibility of inadvertent time travel. While reviewing footage from the 1928 premiere of Charlie Chaplin's silent film The Circus, Clark noticed a woman in the background walking briskly, dressed in period attire, but holding what appeared to be a modern mobile phone to her ear. Dubbed the Time Traveler from 1928, the figure sparked intense debate. Skeptics quickly offered alternatives. She was holding a hearing aid, a pocket mirror, or even a folded handkerchief. Yet audio experts analyzing the original film's ambient sound noted an unusual electronic hum near the moment she appears, an anomaly absent in other segments. More compellingly, facial recognition software, when applied to enhanced frames, matched the woman's profile to no known individuals in Chaplin's production records or contemporary crowd photographs. While not definitive proof, the incident underscores a recurring pattern in archival media: fleeting, inexplicable figures that defy contextual explanation. Similar anomalies have been spotted in Civil War photographs, a man wearing a wristwatch in 1864. 1940s newsreels, a woman with sunglasses and a backpack resembling modern design, and even medieval frescoes, the so-called Charlemagne astronaut in a 13th century Spanish church. Mainstream historians dismiss these as pareidolia or misidentified objects, but intelligence agencies have long catalogued such temporal intrusions in their own archives. A declassified MI6 memo from 1953 references chronological contaminants in wartime footage, recommending strict protocols for image authentication. Whether the Chaplin woman was a time traveler, a glitch in perception, or simply a curious coincidence, her image endures as a symbol of how easily the past might be infiltrated and how close we may have come to spotting evidence of it. Deep in the forests of occupied Poland during the final years of World War II, SS Obergruppenführer Hans Kammler oversaw a project so classified that even senior Wehrmacht officers were denied access. Die Glocke, the bell. According to Polish intelligence reports and post-war interrogations of German scientists, this device was a 9-foot-tall, metallic bell-shaped apparatus filled with a volatile, mercury-like substance codenamed Serum 525. When activated, it emitted a high-frequency resonance accompanied by a violet glow, causing nearby organic matter to crystallize or decompose within hours. But more disturbing than its lethal bioeffects were claims that the bell manipulated gravitational and temporal fields. Testimonies from engineers who allegedly worked on the project, such as Igor Witkowski and later Nick Cook, suggest it was designed not merely as a weapon, but as a prototype for a space-time propulsion system, possibly enabling instantaneous travel or limited time displacement. Kammler, who vanished mysteriously in May 1945, was rumored to have taken the bell and its blueprints with him, possibly to a secret Antarctic base or even to a U.S. intelligence safehouse under Operation Paperclip. Declassified OSS documents reference frantic Allied efforts to locate Kammler and recover anomalous German physics hardware, while Soviet reports from Silesia describe discovering a sealed underground chamber lined with lead, its walls scorched by an unknown energy source. Though no physical evidence of the bell has ever been found, the consistency of accounts across enemy intelligence services lends it a disturbing plausibility. If Nazi Germany truly pursued temporal weaponry, it would mean the race to control time began not in the Cold War, but in the smoke-filled bunkers of the Third Reich, where the laws of physics were seen not as boundaries, but as obstacles to be shattered in the name of domination.
Number 10. The chronology protection conjecture. Did time travel already happen and get erased? In 1992, physicist Stephen Hawking proposed a radical idea, the chronology protection conjecture. Not as a law of nature, but as a cosmic safeguard, a mechanism embedded in the fabric of space-time that prevents macroscopic time travel to preserve causality. Paradoxes like killing one's grandfather, Hawking argued, would be physically impossible because quantum effects would destabilize any time loop before it could form. Yet this very hypothesis raises a haunting implication. If time travel were ever achieved, the universe might automatically correct the timeline, erasing all evidence of the incursion, including the memories of those who witnessed it. This could explain the maddening lack of concrete proof despite decades of claims, documents, and anomalies. Perhaps every alleged time traveler, from John Titor to the Montauk subjects, succeeded only to have their actions retroactively nullified by a self-healing timeline. Even more unnerving is the possibility that governments discovered this principle and weaponized it. Classified research into causal editing could allow a nation to alter past events while ensuring no external observer detects the change, effectively rewriting history without consequence. Whistleblower testimonies from former intelligence analysts occasionally reference timeline scrubbing protocols and memory realignment teams, dismissed as delusions but eerily consistent across unrelated sources. If true, the greatest secret about time travel isn't that it exists, it's that it works too well. Every file that vanishes, every witness who recants, every anomaly that dissolves under scrutiny might not be proof of fraud, but evidence of cosmic censorship in action. In this light, the 10 classified files referenced in this investigation may not merely expose time travel, they may be the last flickering echoes of events that, according to the universe itself, were never supposed to happen.